Welcome to mini lesson 9.3 broadcast. This is actually a pretty complex topic. We'll try and make it as simple as possible, but the broadcast is a tool that you'll use inside Scratch, and there's actually crossovers of this same concept into other programming languages, especially C#. We use that inside C# with Unity, which is a game development engine. I'm a big fan of the broadcast message, which somebody showed that to me in college. And anyhow, so the broadcast message is really cool. It allows you to send messages throughout the program to start and stop other functions within your other sprites or the stage. And it helps you create a concept of something called parallelism, where it seems like you have two pieces of code that are running at the same exact time. And that's kind of what makes your programs kind of fun, is having multiple things run at the same time, which increases the amount of interactivity and the animation and the fun. We've already been doing this. However, we're just introducing these terms and concepts. And technically, you haven't really used the broadcast message. Maybe you experimented with it in some of the previous lessons. Anyhow, we're going to get a little bit more detail with this. All right, let's go look at the program and see what it does. Okay, so here's the program. Just for starters, we will not have anything on the stage. Okay, so sends sprite right here. This will be the sprite that sends these broadcast messages. Where do we get the broadcast messages? Up here under events. Kind of said messages funny there. Sorry about that. So under events, you'll find the broadcast messages. And there are 3 of them. That's all you really need if you think about it. And what's going to happen is we have our first message. When it runs this function that says all this stuff, it's not really important what it says. What's important is that this message right here gets broadcasted out from this block. And it's going to send this message through everything inside Scratch. And anything inside Scratch that has this hat block that receives the same exact message, spelled exactly the same way, the same exact message, it's going to perform whatever action there was for that you programmed underneath of it. Okay, so it's pretty simple. However, it's pretty complex because you can make a lot of errors with this, and you got to wrap your mind around that the computer is sending messages within itself. Okay, so we'll run this code. Let's see what it looks like. So he says all this cool stuff right here, and then he sends a message out, and it starts causing the sprites to spin around, and it's fun. Everybody's having a good time. Okay, so go through the code, sends a message out. The character says, I got the message, and you'll notice it has another function that receives the same message. Okay, when it receives the message on this block, that's what causes it to turn around. Let's check it out one more time. Okay, so we start, and it goes through the message. Then he'll say, I just got the message. You can barely see him saying it because he's spinning around, but you have to look real hard. Okay, so 2 items happened at the same time for this particular sprite. Now let's go back over here to the receives message, and let's go ahead and stop it. Okay, so this thing, kind of like, I don't know if you saw Star Wars, but it looks kind of like an Ewok. But this sprite does not send any messages. It just receives messages. And it receives the same message from the sends sprite, and it performs 2 different actions. Okay, technically these actions are the same as the sends when it receives its message, but just for the record, these are 2 different actions for this particular object. So when it receives the message 1 from the send sprite, it performs these 2 actions. Okay, so that's how the broadcast message works. If you wanted to, we could create some more. Let's create a new message. Let's call this my message. Whoa, I'm typing in the dark here. Okay, so we got my message, and let's go ahead and let's make it a little bit trickier here. Let's change the broadcast message to my message. So what we're going to do is we're going to tell it to wait 3 seconds. I think that'll be long enough. Actually, let's make it wait 4 seconds. And we'll put it right there. And we'll put this right here. Let's change, I'm sorry. Okay, we're going to say when it receives my message, or the message 1, which is from the send sprite, we're going to say me too. It's going to wait 4 seconds. Then it's going to send out a message called my message. Now notice I'm not going to change this one. We're still going to allow it to spin around, but we're going to send another message in 4 seconds that says my message, and we'll tell it to do something different here. If I could ask you real time what you would want to see happen, I bet you would say we want to see its color change. And let's put that in a repeat loop, and let's put that, this might lock up my computer a little bit. I'm using an older machine to make these videos, and sometimes when you change the colors and rendering the colors onto the stage and changing them in the code can cause the program to slow down, especially in something like Scratch where the language is interpretive. I'm not sure the details as to why it does it, but I've noticed it happens primarily with Scratch. I never have issues with Unity. Okay, so we run the program, and once it receives this message, it's going to say me too. It's going to count 4 seconds, then it's going to send my message, and then it's going to start changing its color. Oh, there it is. See how it's slowing down my screen because it's painted different colors. Okay, so that's the broadcast message in its glory, and let's make it full screen and run it. I want you to see what happens here. Or actually, I'm curious to see what happens. How about that? And here comes color change. Okay, so you'll notice the color change makes it run even slower because it's painting all these pixels every time it runs. All right, that's just kind of an issue with Scratch and an issue with my computer. There's some ways around it. I'm not going to worry about it right now. I'm mainly worried about the fact that you can change the broadcast messages and have them start and stop different functions. All right, I briefly explained all this material right here. I'm gonna let you pause the video and go through and read all the concepts. Make sure you know these terms, broadcast and parallelism. If you're into programming, you're gonna see these terms in the future. So pause the video and go ahead and read that. And then right here, here's some more information on the different blocks. I'll let you pause the video and go through and read that material. Just remember, the hat block receives only, the broadcast message sends out, and then the broadcast and wait will send the message, and it's not going to do anything until the receiving function completes its code. That could cause issues if you have a piece of code that never stops. So just keep that in mind. And then right here are some more concepts with the broadcast message on how to create these. They're located underneath events. If you watched me create the messages just a second ago, you'll notice I clicked on the drop down menu. Doesn't matter which block you choose, you can create a message that will be shared amongst all the blocks. So click on that little arrow, give it a good message name, make sure you use good descriptive terms. Just don't call it message 1 like I did. That was just testing it out. But if you do, there's nothing wrong with that, so don't get caught up in the details. But just know that, try to give it a good message that you can remember. Remember, spacing does count as characters in programming, so if you put spaces, make sure you're selecting the same name that has the spaces, and don't go back and retype it over and over again in different ways, or you'll end up with like 5 or 6 messages that all look the same but all are different messages even though they're different. And then make sure you find the right one and choose the right one. Okay, so here's another concept with the broadcast message in action. I got some fancy arrows pointing at 2 different functions that start from the message being sent out. Again, you might want to pause the video and watch that. And here are some rules. Okay, rule 1, name the broadcast. It must be the name of what receives the broadcast. So whatever you're sending out, whatever receives it, has to have the same name. The stack blocks send the message, and the hat blocks receive it. That's rule 2. And rule 3, you can use and reuse the same message as many times as you want. Okay, so you can keep reusing. You don't have to make a new message for every little thing. I see a lot of new users get caught up in, they think everything has to have a new message. It's not true. You can use the same message hundreds, maybe thousands of times if you're really getting intense with your program. And you can use technically 1 or 2 messages to accomplish all the goals you need for a program. But sometimes you'll find situations where you do need multiple messages, and you'll know when that happens. All right, that's all you need to know for this particular lesson, and here's what you'll need to program. You'll need the file called broadcast, and then you'll be programming these 2 sprites right here. All right, good luck, and see you in the next video.